All right, 24 hours later, I've wrapped my head around a little bit around this. And I got a feeling I know what's going on here. This particular guide is just up slightly taller than all the others. And I think what's happening is this part of the valve right here, when I get to that section, it touches the top of the valve guide, and it cannot go down in its seat far enough to lap. That's got to be it. So I'm going to put some dye on here and try spinning that in the valve guide and see if we can see if the dye comes off. I already probably know, I think I know the answer. Let's try it. I'm not content just letting other people solve my problems for me. I mean, it's nice, but I like to learn. And I get to be a little sleuth here, a detective. Figure this out. Okay, so we're gonna let that dye dry. Good stuff. Stir it. Layout dye. You want you guys to have a real good look at this. This is our problem child right here. And when I push it down, it gets stuck in the bore there. It doesn't want to come out. So I'm gonna put this on there and just twist it slightly. See if we can figure out what the heck's going on there. Huh. Well, our dye is now pushed up to a straight line right where it touches the guide. Let's compare a good valve. Well, they're both good valves. So there's a taper here, you see that? It's tapered up to this unfinished portion and it tapers down right there. There's a little radius there. And I think we're out. Just like, wouldn't take much to not allow that guide to sit deep enough in its bore there in the valve guide. And then it wouldn't sit and it wouldn't allow me to lap. So I'm laying money on that. I'm gonna wager that's what it is. This guide is too high. I don't think I have a tool to be able to measure the depth there. I'd like to do that. Let me go look around and see what I can find. Okay, I want you guys to see this because I figured it out. I just got a metal ruler here. I got a feeler gauge and I got a sliding T ruler. And I'm gonna just drop this across the top of the block. This is my bad problem child here. Over here is a good valve. I'm gonna drop this down and slide the ruler until it touches the top of the guide. Hope you can see this, folks, sorry. Now we're gonna slide over and look at the gap. You see a gap there? That's 25 thou I can get in there. So she's out. Probably like 30 thou. Since I'm not teaching you how to rebuild an engine, we're talking about some cool, interesting topics related to engines. Let's talk about valve guides for a second. I've had a few instances where people have asked some questions about guides, coworkers, friends, even myself when I was learning. I'm like, well, what's the big deal? Why do I have to replace these guides, right? There's not a wearing part. Well, it sure is. Here's your guides. There's 12 of them, one for every intake, one for exhaust. You can see they're shaped differently. This one's tapered. That's an exhaust, that's an intake. And there's an intake right beside it. They give you a spec for how deep that guide should sit in the bore. I don't know if the spec is from here to the bottom of the block, from the probably the top of the block deck down like I measured. That'd be the spec, right? That makes sense. But think about this valve spinning around on a tappet and turning and moving and doing this, 3,000 times per minute at 3,000 RPM over 50,000 miles, 100,000 miles. This slowly starts to wiggle in the bore in here. The valve starts to wiggle a little bit and it wears. And that's valve guide wear, is the inside wear on that bore there. Now, I put all brand new guides in here. An example where you might see real life results of valve guide wear. Okay, under certain conditions, this is how you're going to know if you have valve guide wear. You're going down a long, steep hill in your standard car. You drop it into second gear, and you're using the dynamic braking, the engine, to hold the car back. Instead of riding the brakes, you're using the engine, right, to hold it back. Because it's trying to suck in air. Because the weight of the car pushing it down a hill, it wants to rev the engine fast because the wheels want to turn because of gravity. So you're closing off the throttle. You have the throttle on the bottom of your carburetor is closed off completely, so air cannot get into the engine through the carburetor. So now your car basically becomes the engine becomes the compressor. It's compressing air. It's holding you back. But on the intake stroke, when the piston is going down, your throttle valve is closed. It's going to get air wherever it can. It's going to suck air. And think about the intake, like I said, and that valve is open like that. It's trying to get air, but it can't because the carb's closed. It's going to suck air through the guide down there if it's worn. And you go to the bottom of the guide, you know where that is. It's down here. So it sucks oil vapors from inside your crankcase. It's going to suck fumes up inside there, crankcase fumes, and it's going to end up down in your piston, in your cylinder, and the spark's going to ignite it, and you're going to have blue smoke coming out of the end of your exhaust pipe when you go down a hill. That's where it's coming from. That's a worn valve guide. So when we look up there, you can see the top of the guide. Well, I wish that would focus a little better. And if I push my valve down, you see the area come in contact right there. 30 thou too tall. There you go. That is the solution. The valve guides need to sit, that particular guide needs to sit deeper in its bore. I didn't realize it had to be so precise. I'm glad I didn't try doing valve guides myself at home because that would not have worked. It would have been an utter failure for me probably. So here we go. That's solved. It's going back to the machine shop, I guess. I get him to set that guide down about 30 thou deep or whatever he needs to match all the others. And we'll be fine. Bit of a pain, an inconvenience. It's deferred me a few days on my job. Who cares, right? I've been deferring this job since June. And we'll get her back together. That'll be one step at a time. You know what? I learned something new today. I think you did too. So have a good one. See you on the next one, folks.